want. I think this is a very, very dangerous assumption.
It's not my assumption, Mr. Rainsy. It's been said many times
No, but
to me this
this
month.
assumption is very strange, because then you have to imagine a totally different world. In a totally different world, I think life would be different. So any conclusion would be very, very questionable. When did UN intervene in Cambodia and organized the first ever free and fair election in 1993? The CPP lost to the opposition. The opposition at that time has no basis in Cambodia, no machinery. It was from abroad, along the border with Thailand. But still, the popular support was so genuine that the opposition won. But I can tell you, over the last 20 years, we have more reasons to see a desire for change, because the raison d'être of the CPP is the fact that, or is their pretense to have liberate Cambodia from the Khmer Rouge. This is a little bit simplistic, but I just think present the way they present. So 30 years ago, this may be relevant. 20 years ago, still relevant. But now, not relevant. Why? Because 70% of the population is under 30 or under 33 or 34. And the age of 33, 34 is very important. It's the collapse of the Khmer Rouge. So people who are 34 now, they were born after the Khmer Rouge. And this segment of the population under 34 represent more than 70% of the population and more than half of the electorate population of voting age. So I think the population between 18 and 34 would represent 60% of the electorate. So the argument of the CPP telling the population, you owe everything to us because we liberated you from the Khmer Rouge. But those young people said no. So what? We were not born yet. And the CPP always compare the current situation with the situation under the Khmer Rouge. And then the CPP look very, very good. They perform very well.
Anybody would.
Yeah, anybody
better.
would. Yeah, because the Khmer Rouge is hell. The Khmer Rouge regime is just hell. So anybody would do better than hell. But this language, if you explain to the youth under 34 or even much younger, it doesn't mean anything. They don't compare their present life to the life under the Khmer Rouge, but they compare present Cambodia with present Thailand or even present Vietnam. Neighboring countries, they see pictures, they see film, they watch, they look at the internet, Facebook and so on. They see, oh, Cambodia is backward, relatively backward. Yes, as a matter of fact, it is one of the poorest countries in the world, one of the most corrupt countries in the world, a country where social injustice are the most shocking. So young people, they are very idealistic. They want to see and to live in a clean and just society. And we are very far from the aspiration of the youth. That is why if the election were the election free and fair, I think 60% of the population, the young, they have very little reason, if any, to vote for the CPP. So I think the CPP is fighting a rearguard battle. Trend is against that. Demography is against that. Social trends is against that. Technological trend is against that. The course of history is against that.
Do you think that young people are very idealistic, or do you think prosperity matters more trumps ideology in this country? People want a car, they want an iPhone, they want an iPad. If they can get this from the ruling party, from stability and economic progress, then they don't care about what's happening with land grabs if it doesn't affect them directly.
The young who demonstrate, who protest, who take part in the opposition parade, they are from, many of them are well-off family. I have made my inquiry. They are children of apparatchiks of the CPP. Their father are high-ranking police officer, high-ranking army officers, high-ranking government officials, and they don't need anything. I from the material point of view, they have the latest smartphone. Some of them have beautiful cars. When they drive motorcycles, it's a nice motorcycle, well dressed. I think it is something different. It is not only because they want things for themselves. I think they, like many young all over the world, they are more they are idealistic. They are less cynical than older persons. But of course, there are also poor people among those young, and those poor people are unemployed and poor, very frustrated. If they have some job, they are not well paid. So those have demand. So all these form a new group of young people who are more demanding. It's a high level of expectations. And when their demands are ignored because of the elections, because the elections does not reflect their actual strength of those young people, I think they will become really angry. And then I don't know what will happen, but I cannot predict. It's hard to fully understand those young people. They have their mindset, they have their even their language, their behavior, the way they behave. Sometimes on motorcycles all night, nearly shouting. I don't know where their energy comes from.
It's been quite incredible to see, and there have been comparisons made now with what's happened in the Arab world 2 years ago.
Yes.
Some people in the press are calling it the Cambodian Spring. But do you not think that there's a lack of, you say they're very angry. Are they very angry? Is this going to be a Tunisia situation or in Egypt? Are the young people happy to sit in a square and get hit by police and they will stay, whatever?
Were you at the
themselves?
press conference yesterday?
I wasn't, no.
You wanna?
You answered this question already.
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that.
In short, there are similarities between Egypt and Tunisia on the one hand, and Cambodia on the other. The similarity is the large number of young people, the demography. The fact that those young people are jobless, most of them are jobless. They are poor, they are frustrated, and they are very demanding, with high expectations. And they have a sense that they have the power to mobilize. With Facebook, they have Facebook in Tunisia, in Egypt, much less extent, but Facebook does play an important role in mobilizing the young.
Here, or even there.
Yeah. I think in Tunisia, the Facebook penetration was something 70%, so very high. In Egypt, 34-40%. In Cambodia, 10-15%. But still, this 10 and 50% is important. It is the start.
Yeah.
And it is the first time when I was forced into exile 4 years ago. There was no indication whatsoever that there will be a youth movement like this. So this movement is very recent. It is already powerful, but it's very recent. Now the difference in Tunisia and in Egypt, the young people, they raised, they protest without the backing of any political party. And even they don't recognize any political party as being the leading force and as giving instruction, inspiration to them. But in Cambodia, this is different. In Cambodia, they support the opposition, the official, the legal, the democratic opposition. So the risk of anarchy, I think, is less because we have an organization, we have a machinery, we can channel a number of things. But look at Egypt now. Nowhere, it's terrible, it's total chaos. Tunisia also. But in Cambodia, hopefully, to some extent, I say only to some extent. But we could be, how do you say, overflowed, overtaken by this movement of young people. Suppose that tonight or tomorrow, the Electoral Commission proclaimed the result that people could not understand. But they talk among themselves that this is a kind of so big majority for a change. But then, no change whatsoever. So I think the young people will not accept that. They will demand that this election be cancelled or I don't know what, but they will not accept it. Because it is against their feeling, against the feeling of comrades, all the comrades. They know how come the result of the election does not change anything, does not reflect anything different, whereas the reality has become very different from what it used to be only a few months or a few years ago. So I think there will be a risk of violence. So,
just one more question. I've never heard you concede the election at this stage in previous years. Is that because you feel like that your time is coming?
I don't think in those terms. I try to, how do you say, to make sure that Cambodia is moving toward democracy, but that we take a road that is manageable, that we can control. I don't want the country to be in chaos. But we can coordinate, we can prevent any excess, except on the part of the young women who are not within the party. I would say this movement of youth is on the fringe of the party. We may still have some influence in that. But suppose we want to take a more moderate path, and if the young people refuse, so I don't know what would happen. So I think we have exhausted our topic.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Randy.
Where'd you get your shirts? Is that from Paris?
No,
So-
Indonesia.
Looks, it's petite.
Yeah.